All right, guys, today we're doing a mashup Ask Me Anything episode. So we're talking about things like indecision in your business, marketing, budgeting, online haters, working out even, and so much more. So these are questions you guys sent in a survey, and then some are also from questions you sent on social media, and I'll be telling who asked the question, so you might hear your name. This is going to be a fun one with a lot of different things to learn on a variety of topics. So let's dive in. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth McCravey, and you're listening to the Breakthrough Brand Podcast. Each week, I'll bring you workshop-style trainings that teach you how to stand out online, design success from the inside out, and create a breakthrough business. It's time to turn viewers into raving fans and design the business and life of your dreams. I'm so excited you're here. All right, guys, welcome back to the Breakthrough Brand Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth McCravey, and this is a fun one. So I did one of these types of episodes, like an Ask Me Anything thing, a while back. Haven't done one in a while. And I was thinking about okay, I want to record a podcast today. I had another outline that I was thinking about recording, but I feel like it's not quite finished yet. So I was like, I'm going to go to this survey I have actually from the end of 2019. So kind of old. I did an end of the year survey. And these were questions from that. And I had over 100 questions that was the answer to the question of if you could ask Elizabeth anything, what would you ask? So I basically went through those and found some that I'm like, I haven't really talked about this on the podcast before. I skipped some that I've done full episodes on, but these are ones where it's like, I haven't really talked about, or there's not enough content to do a full episode on. So we're going to go through them here. And we got, I don't even know how many, but quite a few questions. Some I'll answer quickly, some I'll dive deeper into. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. And I do want to say before we start, if you ever have a question where you're like, oh, I would like to hear her answer this in one of these types of episodes, send it to me in an Instagram DM and tell me, hey, next time you do an Ask Me Anything episode, this is a question to include. So anyway, I would love to hear your questions. Okay, let's dive into this first one. So this is from Katie, and she says, how do you budget best when your income is inconsistent? So I really liked this question, and this is something I feel like not enough people talk about what you actually do, because we all feel unqualified to answer this, because the truth is I'm also figuring all this out just like you are. But I can tell you what I did early on in my business and what I do now. And I'd also say the interesting thing about this, that's the hard thing about owning a business versus being salaried. Because when you're salaried, you have a consistent income. It's really easy in your personal finances to figure out how much you can save, how much you can tithe, how much can you go on vacation for in a couple months and know you'll have the money for, all of that sort of stuff. But in a business, it's so much more unpredictable, but it's also incredible because your income is literally limitless. Really. So I wouldn't trade it personally, and you'll get used to it, and it's totally worth it. So again, I'm not a bookkeeper or an accountant, but I can tell you what I did early in my business and also what I do now with this problem. So my business revenue and profits have always been inconsistent month to month. Like right now they were when I started. They're always inconsistent. And now I feel like I have a really good grasp though on what I can expect, which is super helpful. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, they've always been consistent. The truth is, we do things like launches, sales. You might have a big month where you book a bunch of clients and then you're not in booking mode anymore. So because of that, it's going to be inconsistent. And that's just really a part of online business. So here's what I did early on. So when I first started my business, first thing I want to say, if you're new to this, keep business money separate from your personal finances. They need to be two separate checking accounts. Do not intermingle them. It is a headache. Okay. So I kept early on my expenses really, really low, and I still try to be wise and keep them as low as possible, because I don't want to run into the problem of possibly going into the negative because of spending more than I make. So early on, I knew that was never going to be a problem. I was always spending less than I would be making that month, even if I made the bare minimum. So I also do now and have always kept expenses on a credit card. Okay. I know some people are anti-credit card. I am not. I love credit cards. I think they're amazing for your business. I think the rewards are awesome. Cash back is awesome. I can get excited sometimes when I invest in something really expensive because I know I'll get, $50, $100, whatever back in cash back on my credit card. So I like credit cards, but one thing that has to do with here is they help with cash flow. So by keeping all expenses for the most part, there's some that have to come out of a checking account, but for most of them in my business, I keep them on a credit card. And so if your account is like a little lower at the moment and a big expense hits, you don't have to worry about the cash flow of it because it's on a credit card and you always just want to pay it off every month. Do not let interest happen. Credit card interest is literally the worst ever. And I've never carried a balance in my credit card. I always pay it off. So if you can pay it off and like manage it responsibly, it's totally worth it to have credit cards. But I love that because it keeps it all separate, makes it easier to manage. Another thing, set aside 20 to 25%. Some people say 30%, maybe talk to an accountant or bookkeeper for that. But I set aside 20 to 25% for taxes each month. And then I pay myself from that and put that into my personal finances. Okay. So early on, this kind of gets to the question about budgeting. I paid myself almost every penny I made. So I was not carrying a profit in the business. So let's say if I made $3,000 one month, then, I would set aside the amount for taxes. And then after that, we would have $3,000 to work with in our personal finances. So we would like month to month figure out, okay, $3,000 this month, let's tithe and save based off that number. And if I made more than that or less than that, it would be the same thing. Like that's the number you're working with. And so it was month to month figuring that out. But I also knew how much money I needed to make in order for us to pay bills and keep things afloat and do all that. And I didn't get below that number, which is really great. And I know that doesn't happen to everyone, but I knew what that number was and was able to always stay above that. So month to month, it was different. Like we were saving different amounts, we were tithing different amounts, investing different amounts, all of that. So I paid myself basically everything I made, and then I kept about $500 in the business account, and I tried to build that up slowly. I got to a point where now I've built it up a lot, but I slowly built that number up to be more and more of a buffer in my business. So if there was a month where now I, it couldn't work for some reason or didn't make as much as I was planning to pay myself, there's some buffer money there. Or if you spent more because something happened where you had to spend a ton of money, I don't know what that would be, but there's a buffer. So I would say try to build that up, kind of like an emergency fund for your business, really. You could end up having, for example, taxes be way higher than you had budgeted for, that sort of thing. So I originally, though, kept like 500 and then built that up. So now, though, I have salaried myself and I actually leave a lot of money in my business each month as business savings. So I have like thousands in business savings, and then I pay myself a set salary. I do a quarterly bonus for myself. That's something new I started doing this year. So really, I've only done it once right now, and I guess I'm about to do it again. But I do a quarterly bonus that then my husband and I will invest or put into savings in our personal finances. But besides that, month to month, I'm paying myself a salary. I'm leaving the rest in the business. And also, it feels so crazy sometimes. It kind of stresses me out, if I'm being honest. But I spend a lot more money in my business now, month to month. And it's so crazy looking at you guys. Like, I was just in my spreadsheets this morning, but like, I spend more now in 1 month than I might have made in like 2 or 3 months a couple of years ago, which can feel overwhelming, like spending more than like that feels such like a big number, but I do believe you have to spend money to make money. And I keep tabs on how much I'm spending. I'm always trying to keep costs low. And if the cost of something is not converting or not worth it, I want to get rid of it. And I'm really proud because my business does have really great profit margins. And I am able to run a really low cost online business compared to what is typical, because you guys, when you hear someone saying like, hypothetically, they make, let's say, $500,000 a year, a lot of times people are spending half of that or more to operate the business. And then them as the CEO might only be taking $100K. So it's like, it's not always what the number isn't always what it seems, basically. So I'm really proud that I don't spend too much money and I am able to pay myself really well. So anyway, that's how I do it. I hope that helps. And then one thing too, I'll add on this one, and I promise some of my answers are shorter after this one. This is kind of a longer one, but I would suggest using a spreadsheet to track upcoming income that's going to come in. That's super helpful for budgeting because that way you have a grasp, even before the month starts, on how much you can expect to bring in. So like, for example, let's say you have a client who's going to do a 4-payment plan. So they paid you when they booked 25%, and then every month or however long they're going to do the rest of the percentages until they get to having paid it all off. You can enter that into your spreadsheet so that you know, okay, on, September 12th, this client is going to pay me $2,000 for that payment plan. And you can know, okay, if I don't make anything else that month, I have that $2,000 coming in. So that's really helpful too. And that helps you kind of have an eye always for what you need to hit, what the goals should be, and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. So Katie, that is the answer to the first one. Budgeting when your income's inconsistent. Okay. This next question, I like this one. Hopefully I can answer this well. Do you ever get hateful messages online? And if so, how do you handle them? So, I'm grateful to say that I rarely do, but 100% have definitely. I feel like if you've been online for even a little bit of time, that'll happen at some point. But so it has happened many times, but it's not a frequent everyday thing for me by any means. And I have a lot of thoughts about this though. So the sad thing about this, I think, one, we all know people are crueler and bully harder when they have a keyboard and a computer separating them from the person they're talking to. It can literally make you not see them as a real person. But also something I see a lot in the online space, especially among women, is we see someone who has more followers, the more followers they have, the more, if you're angry about something they did, you can see them as they're not even a real person and they're not even whatever. I can say whatever I want to them, shove all your feelings on them. And you can be meaner because they have more followers. We see this all the time. I'm sure you can think of examples that I'm probably thinking of myself right now, of when that's happened to people who have a lot of followers just getting attacked. But I think that's a big piece of it, is you feel like you can bully them because they have so many more. And so I personally do not have enough followers to have that problem. But it's interesting to think about when we see people get attacked like that, of okay, that's a big piece of it. As far as negative comments though, to me personally, I've never had any customers get mad at me. I'm really grateful for that. All my template buyers are very happy people and no one's ever sent me hateful messages or mail about any of that. But I do get mean comments or mean DMs and sometimes mean responses to emails I send out. So sometimes it makes me laugh. Also, this is not a mean comment necessarily, but you might have seen, if you missed it, look at my story highlights, because I'll probably keep this up forever. But I had someone send me an email saying they were a hired hitman and someone hired them to kill me, and they were outside of my house watching, crazy stuff like that. It was a spam thing. But with stuff like that, I just laugh and have fun with it. But sometimes people criticize us, and seriously though, go look at that story highlight. I digress, because that was not the point of this, what I was about to say. But if someone's giving a valid criticism, I want to always consider that they could be right and reply with grace, not defensiveness, and see what are they seeing in me? Could that be true? Try to hear what they're saying and respond. But sometimes I think not replying is okay. As a literal example that happened to me a couple days ago, literally 3 days ago, I got a message to my Facebook page, a private message, and has a curse word in it. So I'm not going to say the curse word. I'll say something else because you might have children with you. But this older man messaged me and said, you shouldn't have started a business to pay Facebook to spam people about your, we will say, crappy business. And I'm that just kind of made me laugh of why does that person feel a need to message me and say that? And then when I read that to my husband, he was he wouldn't be calling your business that if he saw your P&L. And I'm yes, not giving my energy to that. Not helpful. So yes, to the hateful messages sometimes, handling them by what I said, of just replying, trying to have grace, trying to listen, but also just letting some stuff slide and not worrying about it. All right, next question. So this one is from Sarah, and this is a little bit longer of a question. So she says, do you find it hard to have the one account for your personal and business use? Talking about on Instagram. Do you find it limiting how much personal stuff you can share? How did your friends and family respond when you started sharing more business related things? Okay, so I'm going to really quickly tell you guys my story with Instagram here. So I started Instagram like everyone else with a personal profile. I had that before before I even started my business. But then when I first started my business, I did not make social media for my business, which I wish I would have done sooner. But I would instead on my personal account just occasionally post business stuff. But it was seriously like once every couple of months, because I first of all didn't post that much anyway. This was before Instagram stories were a thing. So I would, probably regularly only post once a month. And so every couple of months it was like a post about my business. But besides that, it was just occasional personal stuff. But when I started to decide, okay, I'm going to take Instagram seriously for my business, I made a business Instagram account and made my personal account private. So I had two accounts, private one for personal, business account for business stuff. And I really did try to keep them separate. So for a long time, I was not showing up on stories. I was not talking about my personal life and sharing photos of my husband and I or anything like that. And again, I wish I would have started some of this other stuff sooner that I talked to you guys about and what I do now. But eventually I got rid of my personal account and I told everyone to go follow me on the business one. And really what motivated me to do that was at the time I would have people trying to follow me who wanted to follow my business account requesting the personal one because it showed up higher in search results because it was older. That's an interesting thing to consider. That could happen to you. But people would click on that one and they both said my name, but had like different stuff and then to help me know which one was different. But anyway, so I got separate ones. So about the criticalness from people So no one was ever critical to me to my face when I started sharing more business stuff on the personal account or when I started the business Instagram account. Everyone I knew and was friends with and family, they were all super encouraging. My sister would always tell me that she felt like I was a different person on stories, though, which was funny. Because I don't think I am, but she said it always made her laugh to see me, but she meant that in a sweet way. But I do think there were probably people who I know, but am not necessarily friends with, who were critical behind my back during that time because, and maybe even now, who knows, but I've heard other people I know be critical when someone else starts a business. People can just be really catty. So I've had people say like, can you believe she's posting that about such and such? And so I know people probably did something similar to me as well. You just gotta let it go. Like see the bigger vision. Like that's not who you're posting for. So let it go would be my biggest advice. That's what I did. If like, I know it's probably happening, I don't really care. As far as being limited by how much personal stuff I can share, I don't feel limited by that, but I do have like a lens I look through when I think about what I'm going to share that's personal. So I try to be really intentional on what I'm sharing, especially on stories, because stories, it's like, if you wanted to, you could just post all the literal most random things about your life. So I try not to do that. I try to ask myself when I'm going to post something, is this helpful, entertaining, interesting, or inspiring? Those are the questions I kind of ask. That's my filter. So there are plenty of things that I take photos of or do that I never share. Like for example, hanging out with friends, like I'm often not taking photos or videos at things like that, unless there's something like really eventful happening. So that stuff I'm like not necessarily sharing. I take lots of photos that are like family related that I never share. So I just try to think about those things. If it'll be helpful, entertaining, interesting, or inspiring. And if I don't think it will be, I don't share it. But I do like to share personal stuff because I consider my business to be a personal brand, which means that things about my actual life are part of it, not just what I'm selling, not just my services. And I think many of you listening would benefit from thinking of your business that way. And I think a lot of people try to separate the two. And in reality, if you are the person working with people, like you're a photographer, a coach, a copywriter, whatever it is, but you are like the person they're hiring, they're going to be on Zoom calls with, they're going to be in person at your event, or they're inviting you to their wedding to photograph it, whatever it is, they need to be able to get to know you, and people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Showing your face, showing your personal life, sharing your quirks and things like that can be huge for connecting with people and growing your audience. And I think sometimes we think we have to show up perfectly, but really, I think it gives other people a lot of grace and makes you enjoyable to follow when everything you share isn't so polished, which is what Instagram stories really lets you do. So anyway, I would highly encourage you guys, you can keep the personal and business accounts separate, but regardless, wherever you're saying, hey, if you're interested in my business, I want you to follow me here. Definitely share the personal too, be bold with it. And kind of, I'm getting ahead of myself because there's another question that relates to some of this. That's actually next. I'm going to talk about that one next. But yes, I don't feel limited, and friends and family were kind about it. Okay, so next question. This one goes off of that one. This is from Shannon. So she asked, how do you market yourself well if you're an introvert, especially on Instagram stories? So again, this kind of relates to what I was saying, but I think first of all, you can totally be introverted and show up well in stories. I actually myself am an introvert, and I think shyness is really what we're talking about when we ask this question. Not being an introvert, but being shy is what can make it tough. And I have some really fast, practical tips. And again, this kind of relates to the last one too, if you're nervous about showing up. But I have 3 little tips I want to share with you guys. So first of all, this is such a helpful lens. Realize that the people you follow on Instagram who are successful and who you enjoy following are posting on stories and are showing up boldly on social media. I guarantee you, if you were to make a list of like, these are my 3 favorite people to follow on Instagram, you like following them because of the way they're showing up. And you might be over here though saying, I'm introverted, I'm shy, I'm scared of showing up that same way. But if you want to attract people the way they are, you need to be willing to share, and not copying them by any means, but like showing up is key. Showing up, interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Being authentic, having an opinion, all that kind of stuff is what makes someone interesting to follow. So just kind of think through that lens of like, if you're going to make a list, maybe make it of like, who are the people I really enjoy following, what is attracting you to them, and like, how can you have that same energy in the way you're showing up on stuff. Another tip, practice it. Practice is so key here, you guys. You're not going to feel like a total pro at something the first time you do it. Even thinking about for me with this podcast, I still don't feel like a total pro, but especially if I go back and listen to like the first couple episodes I did, you can tell even in the way I'm talking, I had less confidence. It takes time to build up confidence. So practice it. Don't be afraid to do multiple takes and start over, and just know that you'll get more confident the more times you do something. So like, start showing up on stories now, even when you have a small audience, and then you will be better and more confident as your audience grows. Another one that's just kind of funny, but I totally think you should do this. You can hide your stories from people. So if you just like, once you've posted a couple stories and go view your own stories, there's a settings button, and then there's an option to hide stories from people. And you can literally select people who have been looking at your stories and make it so they don't see your stories. So they're still following you and they just think you're not posting on stories. So a great time to do this would be if there's some person you know from high school who you're like, she's being judgy about my business, or whoever it is, just hide your stories from them. Let them see like the main post content, but don't let them see your stories, and they can keep following you and not even know anything's up. But then maybe that will be helpful to you showing up, but like not worrying about that person seeing it. I just know that was helpful to me at one point early on in my business. So yeah, that's my tips for marketing yourself well if you're introverted on Instagram. Okay, this is a more personal question that I have a pretty short answer to, but this is from Courtney, and she asked, what do you do for your workouts? So I really love talking about exercise and do a lot in my personal life, but not really in my business. So this was like, when I saw this one, I was like, oh, I should answer that one. So the short answer to this is that I do lots of different things. I like switching it up. I like literally so many different types of working out. I don't really have like particular ones I always am doing. Just recently though, my husband and I together did Kayla Itzines. I hope I'm saying her last name right. I always say Itzines, which might be wrong, but her program is BBG through the Sweat app. We did her 12-week BBG program, and we started it at the beginning of quarantine time, because we were like, okay, we have to figure out how to work out from home. And we were literally using like gallons of water and things like that for weights because we didn't have any dumbbells. But it's a lot of body weight stuff, really high intensity and fast, but like you're done in less than 30 minutes. And I really love those workouts. I've done them on and off since I was in college. And I'm like such a big fan of her and really admire her and her business. So anyway, I love those workouts. I also like cardio. I used to be really into running for years and had a knee injury, and now I can't run long distance very well without being in a lot of pain. So I don't do as much running. But in general, I really like to listen to my body with exercise. And I think of exercise as like kind of therapy me time, like totally for me, self-care time. So sometimes I'm like, I want to go to the gym and I want to blast loud music and do tons of burpees and sprints and box jumps and things like that. And then other times I want to walk or jog or do rowing. I really love the rowing machines, and I don't do that for a long time. I'll like do that with running or something like that. But I'll enjoy doing that and like listening to a podcast. So it really varies. And I also really love yoga. I don't do it as much as I used to, like in the class format, especially right now with coronavirus. But I used to teach yoga actually. Like I feel like a lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people do. But I taught yoga for years and I'm still a certified yoga teacher. And I got certified while I was in college, and then taught during college and right after when I was still starting my business. So I feel really passionately about that and so treasure my time when I became certified. But anyway, that's a little bit of what I like to do. I like weights. I like walking. I really like high intensity stuff like burpees and things like that. One of my favorite things is to do burpees and then like jump lunges and then jump on a box and then run around a track, like literally stuff like that. I love it. But then other times I'm like, I don't have the energy for that. And lately, a lot of my workouts have been just me walking around the track at our gym and thinking, and like literally no music or anything. And I just go on a walk, and I really love that too. It's very therapeutic. Okay, so let's move on to another question. I liked that one. That was fun. Okay, here's another one that I have a short answer to. Have you ever had to discontinue a client relationship in the middle of a project? So this is from Megan, and short answer, yeah, I have. I feel like if you've been in business a little while as a service business, you're going to have a difficult client, whether it's discontinuing in the middle of a project or a project ending poorly. Like, I feel like, I don't want to say inevitable, but like it tends to happen of something not going right, whether it's really dramatically bad or just a little bad. But I have had that happen only once, and it does suck. It's not fun, but my encouragement to anyone going through that of like a really difficult client situation, a project you're thinking about canceling in the middle, is just knowing you are going to learn and grow so much as a service provider from those types of situations, because you're going to learn what doesn't work, what clients you don't want to work with, red flags to watch out for, errors you have in your own systems and contracts, ways that you're not a good communicator. Like, it is a very eye-opening experience, and you'll learn a lot from it. So I would just encourage you to like not be negative Nancy and saying that you just have the worst client ever, but instead trying to learn from it and grow yourself. And on episode 54, I actually did two back-to-back episodes about difficult clients. So one was on how to prevent difficult client situations, and then one was like, hey, you're in the thick of a difficult situation, here's how I deal with it. So if that's you, if you're like, oh, I need to prepare myself myself better for that, or I'm in the thick of it now, go back to those 2 episodes. Those are 2 of my favorites I've done on this podcast because I think they're just so super practical. And it's literally what I wish I would have known when I had a really difficult client situation. I really just like 2 that I would say were really difficult, but I had one that was like, made me consider quitting my business. Like it was so bad. And now I have a completely new lens on it looking back. But at the time it was like, woo, that was rough. So these are the episodes I would have told myself then. So yeah, that's the answer. Yes. And my advice on all that is really in those episodes. Okay. I only have a few more left. Okay. Let's do this one. This is another like more personal one. I think this is a fun one. Is your husband an entrepreneur too? What does he do for work? And that was on Instagram from Kristen. Okay. So I'm married to Adam. We've been married almost 5 years now. It'll be 5 years, August 1st. And we've been together almost 10 years because we've dated a while before we got married. So he is not an entrepreneur, and he actually worked for a Christian ministry called Young Life for the past 5 years. And he also worked for them when we were in college. We live in Nashville. He works for Williamson County Young Life. And we just love Young Life. If you're not familiar with it, it's a Christian ministry that works with high schoolers. And they also have other divisions of it that do things with teen moms, kids with special needs, all kinds of awesome stuff. And I was a volunteer Young Life leader for 7 years and recently quit leading after I graduated a group of girls because you stay with the same group of kids all 4 years that they're in high school. So anyway, we love Young Life. I really, really, really love and believe in the mission of Young Life. And he's had that job the whole time I've had my business. But interesting thing, which is why I decided to answer this question, he recently quit that job. And I haven't said that on the podcast because it's not really relevant, but I can say it now. He recently quit his job with Young Life, not because we don't love Young Life, but because he felt like the Lord was calling him to something new. So he is actually going back to grad school to be a counselor, which I'm just so excited about because he's so clearly gifted in that area of like listening, advising, really just has like that in his heart. Like he's so good at that. So anyway, he's going back to school for that starting in the fall, and we will still be involved in Young Life as donors to it and supporters and cheerleaders for it. But he also will still be a Young Life leader, just not being paid on staff by Young Life. But yeah, he's about to be in school again. So that's going to just be really interesting for us because, neither of us have gone back to school since we graduated college. And we actually got married right out of college, like a few months after graduating. So anyway, this will be a new adventure and one I'm really excited about. It'll be interesting. Classes when you're in grad school are at night. So are just different schedules. Like I'll probably have more time working at night now to actually match his schedule a little bit and things like that. So when he's done with school, he'll be a licensed counselor and we'll go on to do that. So yes, that is what he does for work. Okay, you guys, this is so fun. Okay, I have one question left. And again, I'm going to do this another time because I had 100 questions I was choosing from right now. And I also just want to ask you guys again for some fresh questions. But these are really fun. I hope you're enjoying this. Okay, so I saved one that I really, really love for last. And this is from Betsy. So she asked, what do you do when you get stuck on a project or on making a decision about your business? And funny thing, this one, again, when I made this outline like just now, looking through all these questions, this one really stuck out to me because I just went through a really difficult decision in my business and it drove me crazy. Like, just to be totally honest. It was really frustrating and also fascinating to me to watch myself go through it because I was like, why is this so hard for me? It was so strange. Like it was just, I was in like complete paralysis mode about it. And I won't really get into what it was, but it was basically like do I do this big project, this huge opportunity, or do I do this other thing in my business that I'm wanting to focus on? That's kind of what I had to do with. And it was really hard. So anyway, I'm an Enneagram 6, wing 5. And if you're familiar with the Enneagram, you'll know what that means. But type 6 are known for being indecisive. 6s are the ones that like really value safety and security and all that stuff. But they also can be really indecisive. And I've always thought, oh my gosh, I'm so decisive for a type 6. And all my friends have also at times been like, are you even a 6? Because you're really good at decision making. And this situation showed me that I'm not above that. I can totally go into being just totally indecisive. So advice though on this, being in indecision mode is the worst feeling. So like for me, it was stopping my productivity. It put me in paralysis on action in other areas of my life. And it made it hard to just move forward at anything. Like I spent so much time stressing and overthinking this situation. And this happened, again, if you listen to the podcast, you heard me say this recently. My dad passed away on Father's Day weekend, literally like less than a month ago. It's been really hard. But this big decision happened right before that happened. And him passing away had a lot to do with why this became harder for me, because my schedule has been so changed by his passing of having, I feel like I still haven't gotten to grieve properly because I'm so in the weeds on stuff for his business. That my husband and I are running it right now, and all kinds of other legal stuff I've had to do. It's just been crazy, moving him out of his house, all kinds of stuff. So that also contributed to why it became like totally in decision mode. But here's what helped me through all of it. And this is seriously so fresh for me because it was literally like 2 weeks ago that I like finally made the decision on this difficult decision. But here's what I did to help. Pros and cons list. If you literally are in like between two things, make a pros and cons list, actually consider both sides. Another thing, talk to a friend who gets it and who will give you honest feedback and who wants what's best for you at heart. So my go-to person for this when it comes to my business is my friend Jenna Viviano. She's a dear friend. She is wise. She is a prayer warrior for you when you need it. And like, she's someone who I literally had to apologize so many times. I'm like, I know I'm annoying you so much because I kept texting with her about this decision. We had a phone call about it. We texted a ton. My husband got tired of me talking to it and he was like, you're going to have to talk to Jenna about this. But she was really helpful. So having someone who will like listen to you and help you think through it. Praying about it a ton, praying for wisdom, listening to your intuition is another thing I would say with that, of like, pray about it, but then also go with your gut. Cause I think the Lord communicates to us a lot of times through what our intuition is telling us to do. It's the Holy Spirit guiding us. My friend Jenna literally told me that when I was feeling so stressed about this decision. She was like, your indecision's telling you what to do here. That is the Holy Spirit leading you, which was really wise advice. Another thing, these are 3 questions I asked myself in the indecision that were really helpful. Again, you guys, I probably sound crazy with how hard this decision was for me. If you knew more about what it was, it would make more sense. But anyway, these are the 3 questions. So if you would be successful either way, what would you do? So if both ways lead to your success, which one do you pick? Basically knowing like your success is inevitable. What do you want to go with? This one's so huge for me. And if you're an Enneagram 6, you'll relate to this one. If someone else were asking you for advice on this, what would you tell them to do? And that one for me was huge because I'm like, I know exactly what I'd tell someone else to do, but I was struggling to tell myself that same thing. So asking yourself that, like picture someone else, a dear friend, someone you're coaching coming to you with that same question, what would you tell them? Last question, what is my intuition telling me to do? Like, what is your gut feeling? And the truth is, if something is like, if you're thinking about saying yes to something, but it feels really, really hard to say yes, it's probably a no. That concept of it's not a heck yes, it's a no. Is really true there. So that's my thoughts on what to do when you get stuck on making a decision. And I would say too, like, get out of the indecision mode as fast as you can, because making no decision is worse than making the wrong decision. Seriously, like your business is going to be fine either way. Like just pick something. That ended up being my own thought of like, I'm going to be fine either way. I need to just like move on from this because this is stressing me out. So anyway, that was a little longer of an answer than I thought, but yeah, that one is so huge. So that was a great question, Betsy. Okay, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this little Q&A type episode. So here's what I want you to do. If you enjoyed this, send me a DM on Instagram. Tell me what you liked about it. Tell me any takeaways. Share this with people who would enjoy it. And also want to throw out there, if you're listening to this live in the month of July, I'm doing a giveaway every single week over on Instagram. And the way to enter it is literally review the podcast. And then for a bonus entry, or if you've already reviewed it, thank you, by the way, if you have, but if you've already reviewed it, share on your Instagram stories just about an episode that impacted you. It could be this one or another one, however you want to share, just share about the show. And what I'm doing is every week I'm giving away a bunch of business books that I love. So these are the books that have impacted me the most in my business, and I'm giving them away, plus some other goodies to one person each week. And we already picked the winner last week. Her name was Amy, and then we're going to pick a new one every single week. So just know the rest of the month of July, you have that to enter. So just leave a review on the podcast on Apple Podcasts and then share about it. Okay. And seriously though, I would love to know what you think of this one, and any questions you're like, I'd love to have that answered next time. Okay, guys, thank you again always for listening, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to the podcast this week, friend. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you about something. I would encourage you to check out my website template shop. Over on elizabethmccravey.com, you'll find Show It website templates, and they are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. I don't know, maybe it is, and maybe you don't want to hurt its feelings, but you know it's true. And your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers. And that's what these website templates do on MShop. These are pre-made website templates built for the Show It platform, where you can plug and play your content into the template with ease and then get started with a website that is made to actually make you money. Isn't that what we all want, right? So go shop the templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. That link is also in the show notes. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate it if you left a rating and review for the show on Apple Podcasts, or even just share it with a friend. It's a great way to support the show and then give us your feedback. So thanks so much for listening.